and make sure. All right, so let me go ahead and just the purpose of this webinar is to help you make a plan for 2023, and just even taking some time today to make a simple outline for yourself on, you know, how you want to get your goals to accomplish next year, right? So, you know, I don't know if anybody likes Tony Robbins out there. I've done like pretty much every like, you know, Tony Robbins things. I've been to events, seen him live, read his books. And one of the great quotes I love from him, which is so true as a trader, is, you know, you'll greatly overestimate where you're going to be in 1 to 2 years, but underestimate where you are in 10 years, you know? And so like, if you're just new in the game or trading, or you've been doing it for a while now, and you're like, man, I'm not seeing any results. You know, I've been really active in the market for about 7 years now, but that's when I first decided to really dive in. So, you know, I mean, give yourself some time to be successful, but I really want to help to, you know, minimize the learning curve on this, and to help you make it happen. So the best way to really get anything done in a business or with your goals, I've found, is to reverse engineer how you're going to get there. You know, so the good news is, and really the great news is, that whether you're wanting to do an account with Sol or one of the, you know, many prop firms out there, some are good, some not so good, and some are complete, you know, scams or whatever, right? So like, you want to get dialed in on which one you're doing. But I know for a fact with Sol, we can match you up with the capital that you want, right? So that's $1 million plus. So how are we going to get there is the question, because like 1% on $1 million account is 10K, and will, you know, maybe not solve anybody's problems, and, you know, maybe not make you happy, but it will definitely help you to sleep at night. That's for sure. So even that's just 1%. And I know a lot of y'all are like, man, I do 1% a trade, but that might be where your risk management is suffering. So, you know, taking the long game, playing the long game, and I talk about it in the you know, the academy training, right? So really approaching 2023 is playing the long game, because like, you know, like I said at the start, you can greatly underestimate where you are in 10 years, but man, we want to really shorten that learning curve as much as possible. If you think of a university, I mean, 4 years, if you're in college and you're really crushing it, and, you know, if you're like normal people or like me, 6-7 years, right? It took me a long time to do that. And, you know, it turned out to be quite the waste of time. So if you can get focused in it for a year, 6 months even, then things can really, they will change for you, and you can actually sit down at the computer and really understand what's going on. But first you need these 3 things, and you're going to be like, yeah, okay, I hear that all the time, but you got to get dialed in on your risk management. Like, you can't reverse engineer how you're going to get from, you know, either a beginner, or maybe you've been trading for 2 years and you've been struggling and feeling like you're going around in circles, but you haven't really gotten dialed in on the risk management aspect. And, you know, like in the accelerator, we use a risk management tool to help you do that. So however, you know, whatever that looks like for you, you know, I highly recommend something along those lines, but something to track your risk management, and above all, something to, or like staying consistent on your risk, whatever that is, staying consistent with your risk percentage. So I recommend on a funded account. We did a podcast last week. 0.5% is great. And if you want to be slow and conservative, and I think that's always tends to work out better than fast, is maybe even less, 0.4%, 0.3%. You know, if you're trading your own account, then 1% is great. And there's a lot of things that you could do with trade copiers and everything else, but keep it around. I think 0.5% is a great place, is a great rule of thumb when it comes to doing your funded account, right? So great rule of thumb. So that's just like a broad overview of risk management. Like this is all we could focus on for a year and still just trying to grasp it. But, really considering, and I know this now after seeing the accounts on Sol and the back end, the risk to reward, you want to consider your risk to reward and, where you're at in terms of that. Now, if you're somebody that because like when you're back testing, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, well, a 1 to 11 here, and here's a 1 to 8 or 1 to 30, depending on whatever strategy you're doing. But like those don't always play out. I am seeing on the back end, 1 to 2, 1 to 3. There are a couple people that are currently trading that have gotten some 1 to 5s, 1 to 6, but the people that are doing the best and that are successful and getting paid from Sol, from what I can see, is the ones that are that have around a 1 to 2, even a 1 to 1.5 risk risk reward, but they stay consistent with it, because like fluctuating risk to reward is a killer. And this is so, if you have asymmetrical compounding strategy, then that's great. But those, well, they're great when they work out. But what I've seen is that works the best and this is all coming from the data on the back end from being able to see the Sol accounts, is the people that just stay consistent with whatever they are doing, because you're going to take a loss. They're the ones that are able to dust themselves off and come back, rather than taking a loss and being like, oh God, because you were like on a roll and then you cranked up the lot size and now you're like down by 4% or something like that. So, okay, so there's that. Now, next you want a strategy, right? So this is, and honestly, the least important of the three. And you're probably like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. But we talk about this all the time. If you have a just dialed in risk management and a decent strategy, then you can win at doing this. So many people, especially in this community, have amazing strategies, are great traders, been doing this for years. They're like, why can't I get this? But they focus too much on the strategy and not enough on the risk management, and also lastly, not enough on the psychology, which this is why I'm making it bigger. I spelled that wrong before anybody messages me. This is why this is number one, but you can't get into that right psychology if you don't aren't consistent with your risk, because only then you can be like, all right, I see this as a system here and I can work it, and I'm going to take some L's, but I'm also going to have some winners, right? And so I just need to stay consistent over the long haul, being profitable doing this, and staying in the game, playing the long game. This is why this is so important. So wherever you're at on your trading journey, playing the long game, you have to keep that in mind if we're going to get you from wherever you're at now, from 0 to a milli, right? That's what everybody wants. That's the goal. That's what we're here for, and it's completely attainable. And it's an amazing opportunity, especially with governments that aren't accountable, that anything can happen in the economy or the whatever's going on globally. And if there's been any time in the past 2 years to believe that, then with what happened with the COVID and lockdowns and all that stuff, man, it's insanity. So we have to be serious about doing this and taking control and putting our head down and just grinding for a year or something like that, and just being serious and see this as the opportunity that really is.
So we have that is why I would put this up here at the top of the list. Everybody probably knew I was going to start with risk management, but this is, you have to have it be in that psychology of understanding what this actually is and the potential here, and that it's up to you, right? So taking into consideration your health, your mental, where you're at mentally, your physical, like the way you're performing like an athlete, right? So because like think of a kicker in football, for anybody who's in the United States, that type of football, you know, they could be a great kicker, but man, you know, once they have like 1, 2, 3 kicks that just like, you know, lose the game, they lose the playoffs, lose the Super Bowl, their career's over, because they climbing out of that psychological hole is you know, hard, right? And the same thing goes with losing a funded account, you know, losing a challenge, being super confident and breaking your rules, and really, you know, going back on the promises you make to yourself, basically. So these are the 3 components that you really need to focus on, and take some time tonight to take out a piece of paper and really, like, you know, what's my psychology? Like, ask yourself these questions. What's my psychology? What's my risk management plan? And then lastly, what's my strategy and how am I going to get there? And, you know, more than likely, there's going to be some serious holes in all 3 of these, right? So now, finally, too, and yes, Scott, I see your hand. I think right this, I want to get through this presentation, but you can feel free to shoot me a message afterwards. So now, psychology, risk management, strategy, let's really take that into consideration now. And then from there, you have 2 options. You have 2 options. And that is, one, you could just be like, all right, I'm going to just go for that $1 million account. So that's option number 1. You just be ready to do that for the long game. So like if you go that approach, which is completely valid, by the way, you could totally do it. 2 options, and we'll go there. Go, and I'm going to send this out to the group afterwards. Go straight for the million account. Now, if you do that, I would say go ahead and assume that, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to like give myself 4 months to do it, because then you have to ask yourself and do it 1 trade at a time at 0.4% risk, your 0.5% risk, 0.5% risk at 1 to 2. If you hit that, you know, that's 10 trades essentially, right? So like, now there's going to be a roller coaster along the way, but so you could either go straight for that option. So in this whole scenario, give yourself at least, I would say, 4 months, 3 months for sure. Not that it's going to take that long, but go ahead and assume, get out of the mindset that I'm going to be done with this in a week. And in a week, that's where the 30-day window to get to the targets from a lot of the other prop firms really mess up the psychology of that, because then you tie in the fact that, you know, they say you can pass the test in 10 days or pass the test in 5 days. And then when you see that, everybody is like, oh, I can pass this in 10 days, rather than like, I have 30 days to pass it, which 30 days to hit a 10% target. It's extremely hard to do without, you know, cranking down on some risk or getting lucky or like hit, you know, there's a ton of volatility in the market right now. So that's not the issue. But so that's kind of poisoned people in a way, to instead of taking the approach that I'm just going to take my time to get to that 10%. And really just take it 1 trade at a time. So that is option number 1. But I think for most people, and pretty much for all people, and what I would recommend traders do is start out at a lower account. I'm gonna say completely valid, but take your time. And by your time, take way longer than you want and think it's going to take. But 2 options is scale up. Option number 2, scale up. And I think this is the best scenario for most people, and especially from what I've seen and all this. And this is why I can do these presentations now and really feel confident about how we can help you guys get there, is because I'm able to watch it. And by the way, too, just to make this clear, like in the Sol accounts or what, like when I'm looking at them, I don't look at the names, for one, because like I know how hard these tests are as a trader myself. So like nobody needs the extra pressure of like, losing a trade and be like, oh, damn, I hope Clay didn't see that or whatever. So like, want to keep it as, anonymous as possible. Now, of course, if the people have questions, or especially if somebody's in the accelerator group and in our mentoring, then, I will gladly look at their account for them, but not until they ask. So, I'm just looking at the numbers and the data, and that's how we really just try to do that, because like I said, I know how hard it is for one. So I'm not paying attention to who is taking the accounts, unless of course you asked, right? So that's it. So just to make that clear, because like, I don't want people to think that, I'm watching or because there's no judgment in doing this, because I know how hard it is, right? So this is option number 2, is scale up. So to scale up, in order to scale up, that would mean starting with 50K, starting with 50 or 100, and then getting these 3 components dialed in to where you're confident. And this is what I should say lastly on this, is get your confidence and belief up. You got to be in a situation where you're like, I'm going to win, I'm going to knock this thing out of the park, I'm going to crush it, I'm going to go in here and smash it, because that's what I do and that's who I am. Building that belief in yourself and your ability is crucial. I mean, that's just exactly why Tom Brady's won, I don't know however many Super Bowls he's won now, right? I think it's like 7, but I don't know. Anyways, if there's any Patriots fans on here too, or Bucks fans, but yeah, so but that's why, because he knows he can, and he has that kind of belief in his ability. If you're like, oh God, I'm going to do another challenge, I'm going to do it again, I don't have any help, and I haven't even like, changed my strategy, my psychology is bad because like I've been on a losing streak. We don't want to enter in with that from that point of view. What we want to do is scale up, starting with 100, 50, 100K. But first, knock out 1 to 3 trial challenges. And, unfortunately, we don't offer those with Sol because of just like, we have a small team, and it's just another digital, technical thing that we'd have to do. But FTMO does do a free trial account, and I think that is an awesome resource. And you should run through like 1 to 3 at least, following the same system you plan to use on your $1 million run, because that's what we're on here, right? So it's November now. You could go ahead, get started, start doing your trial accounts and be like, this is exactly what I'm going to do, because now you could get started, knock out 3 of these by Christmas. Before, I mean, they take 2 weeks, so you could be halfway through December, and then maybe wait till Christmas, just get dialed up, be like Rocky preparing before his match with the Mr. T or whatever, Apollo Creed. You just be like prepping yourself for it, and then after the first of the year, be like, okay, I'm going to do it. And once you do that, start with your 50 or 100K, and then confidently. So this is your legit trial. This is your trial by fire, right? So, It should switch these around, but it's all good. Let me go ahead and do that. First knockout. Start with 50 or 100K. So this is your legit trial. But then your success can grow exponentially from doing this. Start with 50 or 100K. This is your trial by fire, right? And so now we want you to pass this 50 or 100K. And then from here, get your first payout, right? And make a rule for yourself is like, you would only scale up and continue to scale up from the capital that you acquire or your payout from your funded account, right? So like that being your rule. So then you can scale up from there and, you know, use that and not get in over your head, you know? So get your first payout. And from there, confidently and objectively, because I'll tell you from experience, trading 100K account versus trading a much larger account is a whole different ball game psychologically, especially when you see those numbers, right? So confidently and objectively reassess where you're at. And so now, by the way, you know, we will put together whatever accounts that, you know, you're using, right? So like if you get funded 100K, you reassess, then you wanted to do a 250K and then, you know, got funded with that. We could put those two together. So that would be 450K. And then if you want to take the test for $1 million, you pass it, we can put those together and, you know, would be trading over $1.4 million, right? So like making that your game plan, that I want to be at that $1.4 million by August of next year. And that way you give yourself the space to be able to scale from this point of view. So confidently and objectively reassess where you're at currently as it pertains to, or just really in following your plan. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, and then, you know, getting back to the bare bones of what it is that you're doing and where you're at, right? So this is, once you get to this point, give yourself a couple months to get there. Prep and prepare, and then knock that million out of the park. So this is that would be the outline, right? That's the checklist. But give yourself 60 days plus to pass assessment. Give yourself some time to pass that. And so that's just critical. So then you can, and like I talked about this on the second podcast where there's like you get to you buy a challenge, and it's like you're like, all right, here we go. And there's that mental excitement. You want to just like give that time to, you know, any emotion will fizzle out over time. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, pain, sadness, happiness, you know, you get, you know, like it's going to fizzle out over time. So then you can just focus on what you're already doing, and and fall back on the work that you've been putting in, and falling back on your plan, falling back on your system after the emotions are gone, because emotions can be high and you could just get like tapped into the zone. get a bit of a beginner's luck or something like that. Or flip side of that is emotions could get high and you shoot yourself in the foot. And, you know, and we both, everybody on this call knows that feeling 100%, right? So being systematic and emotionless as possible when you do it, but finally playing the long game, right? So, you know, just even get back to that football analogy, you know, like the pros just think about it one at a time, one game at a time, and really they have the end game in sight, but they don't let you know, that really just blind where they're at in their progress over the course of a season. So this is just an easy outline. And like I said, though, by the way, neither one of these is right or wrong. Those are the two options. And I think that if you're like, man, I've been doing this for a while, I'm ready for number one, then go for it, for sure. But if you want to just take a more systematic approach, then I think that number two and having the option to scale up is going to probably work out better. And, you know, you will have some time, if not if, but when things kind of like hit the fan, you can just like reassess your game plan. So I know there's some people in the group that, and there's already people in the accelerator that are trading over $1 million in capital. And so like, this is a real reality for somebody that's committed, for somebody that's all in, and for somebody who wants to make it happen, you know? So, you know, we are trading live in the accelerator every morning. We're going to be trading NFP tomorrow. I don't think, you know, probably won't take too many trades on that, but, you know, this is a real path in a time and a blessing really, because of right now, things are crazy. We have midterm elections next week. Who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be wild. I'm sure propaganda is going to be everywhere on both sides. And it's like, God, I'm just want like, you know, to take some control back into my life to where, you know, I don't have to depend on these things so much. And that's exactly what, you know, the whole funding scenario. And I'm not saying you have to do Sol. You don't have to do it with us. It's just another option. I'd say get the $1 million account from us and go do it somewhere else for sure. And then if you got the skills and you're determined enough, who knows how long this opportunity will be around. So you have to act fast on, you know, making this happen for next year. You're worth it. Your dreams are worth it. Your family is worth it. And, you know, that's exactly what I'm doing, exactly what I've done. And, you know, just having that confidence in yourself that I put in the time, I'm worth it. I'm worthy of this. Most people, and we self-sabotage ourselves because of an underlying belief somewhere that we're not worthy of this goal. And that's just complete bullshit. It's some stuff that was planted into us by people. You know, maybe they thought it was best to tell us not to shoot for our dreams or whatever, but it's not true and it's not relevant today. So yeah, thanks for hopping on here. You know, if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to shoot me a message. If you'd like our help in the accelerator getting here, you know, it's not for everybody. You know, it's for people that are committed and want some actual guidance on to get there. And lastly, that are in it and willing to play the long game. But, you know, if you're willing, if that's you, you know, there's an application. I will put that below or put it in the replay of this. I'll also put it in here where the with this Google Doc, so you guys can check this out later. And so yeah, Ismet, for sure. That's a good suggestion, buddy. So the name of the funded account again, Maribel, is Soul Funding. That's our prop firm, and that's, you know, we will do this. You can get your funding through us. So, and like I said, if you want our help to do it in the accelerator group, fill out the application. I'll post that along with this outline. And thanks for that suggestion, Ismet, as well. And thanks for hopping on, everybody. You know, I want to help y'all and get y'all to that goal. for next year, for this year. But you don't have to really, today can be the day that you change your attitude about this, change your approach, and really, really make it happen. And I'm here to help you do it if you want my help. So thanks for hopping on, everybody. I'll post this replay later. Let's crush it today. NFP tomorrow. Be careful with that. It's going to be wild. And it's going to be a wild couple weeks in the market. So thanks for hopping on, everybody. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you later. Peace.